Dear friends, let us discuss a brief idea about the vertebrate fossils. Vertebrates are all the animals with backbones, including the fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. These animals have attracted a great deal of study. The efforts of generations of vertebrate paleontologists have been repaid by the discovery of countless spectacular fossils. The heavily armored fishes of the Silurian-Devonian, 7- and 8-toed amphibians, sail-backed mammals like reptiles, early birds and dinosaurs with feathers, giant rhinoceros, rodents with horns, horse-eating, flightless birds and saber-toothed cats. These fossils tell us where the living vertebrates have come from, and they show us glimpses of different worlds that seem so bizarre that they would defy the imagination of a science fiction writer. Despite all of this information that has accumulated over past 200 years, the origin of the group is hotly debated. One thing is clear from the examination of living animals. The vertebrates are members of a larger group termed as the phylum Chordata, and their closest living relatives are marine animals such as the sea squids and amphioxus. These creatures do not have backbone, one of the characters of most vertebrates, but they share other features such as notochord, a flexible tough rod that runs along the length of the body down the back. The notochord in living chordates is generally made from an outer sheath of collagen, a tough fibrous connective tissue that encloses turgid fluid-filled spaces. Chordates have V-shaped muscle blocks, what you call as the myomeres, along the length of the body. The question about the origin of vertebrates then broadens out to focus on the origin of chordates. Molecular studies through the 1990s showed that previous conceptions of the tree were wrong, and that the fundamental splits in the tree of life were all among bacteria, separating the group two major groups, bacteria and archaea. The familiar plants, animals and fungi are parts of the eukaryotes, the major group characterized by complex cells with a nucleus. Relative latecomers in the broad scheme of things, modern studies confirm that major clade within metazoa, the animal is Bilateria, supported by both morphological and molecular evidence. The Bilateria includes the bilaterally symmetrical organisms comprising three clades, including Lophotrochozoa, including brachiopods, phoronids, annelids, mollusks and many minor groups, and Ecdysozoa, including arthropods, nematodes, priapulids and some minor groups, and Deuterostomia, which includes echinoderms, hemichordates and chordates. The origin of vertebrates has long been a profound mystery, but now some clarity is emerging. The purpose of studying vertebrate paleontology is to explore the various lines of evidence that can be used to reconstruct the story of the origin of vertebrates. The study of modern animals that are vertebrate-like in some features, the study of molecular relationships and fossils. The earliest remains of fishes from the Cambrian do not show much of their overall shape or anatomy, and very little can be deduced about their modes of life. Most of them are identified as vertebrates solely on the appearance and microstructure of their hard tissues. Fish fossils from Ordovician, that is 495 to 443 million years onwards, however, are often preserved complete and with a great deal of fine anatomical detail. It is possible to identify 9 or 10 major fish lineages in the Ordovician, Silurian and Devonian. Although some of these fishes would look familiar to us, most of them were very different from modern forms. The key episodes of the earlier fish evolution seem to have taken place during the Ordovician and Silurian, that is 443 to 417 million years, when all the major groups appeared, but specimens become abundant only in the Devonian, that is 417 to 354 million years. During this time, the early dominance of the seas and fresh waters by heavily armored forms gave way to the modern sharks and bony fishes. And secondly, the fishes gave rise to the land vertebrates, the tetrapods. The tetrapods, of course, terms such as fishes, osteichthyons and sarcopterygians all refer to the paraphyletic groups because they exclude tetrapods. Fishes arose in the early Cambrian, at least based on the evidence of the Mylocumenids, and radiated by the late Cambrian as shown by the conodonts and Anatolepis. The Ordovician once seemed to be almost barren of fish fossils until several well-preserved early Ordovician astraspids and arendhaspids came to light. Renewed efforts in searching for more isolated remains have turned up evidence of a wide array of late Ordovician fish groups, that is Telodonts, shark-like fishes, possible acanthodians, conodonts and osteostracans. In the Silurian, fishes became more diverse and more abundant with radiation of the armored jawless fishes and the acanthodians. Further, in the Devonian, the 7 major placoderm orders arose, as well as the first sharks and 6 important groups of bony fishes, including their derivatives, the tetrapods. The first extinction of the fish occurred at the end of the early Devonian with the loss of cyathespids, acanthoracids and other further fish groups, including some agnathan and placoderm families, and some acanthodians disappeared during the mid-Devonian. During the late Devonian, a time span of 15 million years, that is 377 to 362 million years ago, further groups disappeared. Most of the agnathans, including many conodont families and placoderms, as well as most remaining acanthodians and some bony fishes. Other groups that survived into the Carboniferous seem to have been heavily depleted. Of the 70 families of fishes currently recognized as present in the late Devonian, 51 died out during the next 15 years, a total extinction rate of 73%, which is high by any standards. The extinction seemed to have been spread through the late Devonian, but only 17 families, that is 24%, survived into the Carboniferous. A multi-phase late Devonian extinction event also has been recognized among marine invertebrates such as corals, brachiopods and ammonoids, as well as phytoplanktons. The Devonian fish faunas were replaced in the Carboniferous by new groups. Vertebrates made a significant evolutionary move in the Devonian when the first tetrapods stepped onto the land. Dramatic new discoveries have filled in many details of the transition from fish to tetrapod. The basal tetrapods then radiated extensively during the Carboniferous and early Permian, some as small semi-aquatic forms, but many as large forms that fed on fishes and other tetrapods, and that could in some cases live fully terrestrial lives. The basal tetrapods are often termed as amphibians, in common with the living forms, frogs, salamanders and newts. The name amphibian, that is both life, refers to the fact that the modern forms, that is frogs, newts and salamanders, lives both in water and on land, and it is assumed that many of the fossil forms has similar double lifestyles. The class Amphibia used to include all the Paleozoic basal tetrapods and so was paraphyletic because it excludes many descendant groups, the reptiles, birds and mammals. The term Amphibia can be redefined to include only the modern groups which arose in the Triassic and radiated thereafter. The first tetrapods faced major problems in moving from water on to the land. Air breathing was in fact not the key hurdle to cross, but rather weight and structural support. New mode of locomotion had to evolve as well as new ways of feeding, of sensing prey and predators, of water balance and of reproduction also. When all these problems of life on land are considered, it may seem surprising that vertebrates ever left the protection of the water. One classic theory was that fishes moved onto the land in order to escape from drying pools. The Devonian was supposedly a time of seasonal droughts, and the freshwater fishes probably found themselves often in stagnant and dwindling pools. The conclusion of this viewpoint is that the terrestrial locomotion evolved as a means of the staying in water. This suggestion has been criticized as there is limited evidence for droughts and because the theory would explain only modern or moderate terrestrial adaptations, not the much modified tetrapod limb for example. A simpler hypothesis is that vertebrates moved on to the land because there was a rich and untapped supply of food. Waterside plants and terrestrial invertebrates diversified in the late Silurian and Devonian, and it was inevitable that some groups of organisms would exploit them sooner or later. A fish is buoyed up by the water and its body weight may be effectively zero. On land, however, the body is usually held up by limbs, and the skeleton and all the internal organs have to become structurally modified in order to cope with the new downward pull of the gravity. The backbone of a fish is adapted for the stresses of lateral stretching and bending during swimming, but the main force affecting a tetrapod is gravity. The vertebrate and the muscles around the backbone have to become modified to prevent the body from sagging between the limbs. During the late Carboniferous, the temnospondyls and anthracosaurs dominated most terrestrial landscapes, especially the damp forests. Small lizard-sized tetrapods were also in existence, creeping in and out of the vegetation in drier areas, in search of insects and worms. They laid eggs that did not have to hatch in water. These were the first amniotes, and they included the ancestors of all subsequent major tetrapod groups, that is reptiles, birds and mammals, that were to dominate Earth from Permian times onwards. These early amniotes are generally called as reptiles, although the traditional class Reptilia is paraphyletic as it excludes the birds and mammals. Descendants of these early forms, the radiation of amniote group in the late Carboniferous and Permian built up complex ecosystems that were to be destroyed by the huge end Permian mass extinction. But among these, Permian amniotes were the first ancestors of the animals that dominated during the better known ages of the dinosaurs and of the mammals. The oldest amniotes are Hylonomus and Paleothyrus from the mid Carboniferous, that is 310 and 300 million years ago respectively. Of Nova Scotia, the body is slender and is about 200 mm long, including the tail. Unlike many basal tetrapods, the head is relatively small, being about 1/5 of the trunk length rather than 1/3 of 1/4. The skull of the Hylonomus is incompletely known, with uncertainty about the posterior view and the palate, but the Paleothyris is represented by the better skull remains. Some of the key episodes in tetrapod evolution occurred during the Triassic period, that is 251 to 200 million years ago, marking the transition from faunas of Paleozoic style tetrapods to modern forms. The Triassic began with restricted faunas of the lower diversity than those of the late Permian, depleted by the Great Permian mass extinction. On land, the synapsids radiated during the Triassic, but they had already lost a number of key adaptive zones. The two new groups, the Arachnosaurs and the Rhynchosaurs. In the seas, several lines of fish-eating reptiles emerged, and notosaurs and placodonts and ichthyosaurs. Synapsids or dominance in the Permian had been destroyed and replaced by diapsid dominance throughout the Mesozoic. The late Triassic was a key episode in the evolution of tetrapods. Not only did the dinosaurs appear, but a number of other major groups also arose. The crocodilians, the pterosaurs, the turtles and the mammals. The Triassic world was similar in many ways to that of the Permian. All the continents remained united at the supercontinent Pangaea, although the North Atlantic Ocean began to open at the very end of the Permian, with rifting eastern North America and northern Europe and North Africa. Nevertheless, there is a strong evidence that tetrapods could disperse widely because faunas of the continental tetrapods were similar worldwide. For example, the first faunas of the earliest Triassics were dominated by the Dixinodonts, Lystrosaurus, and included other elements such as a small Therocephalians and Cynodonts. The early Archosaur, Proterosuchus, Prolacertiforms and Prolocophonids. These animals were found first in the Karoo Basin of the South Africa, but similar faunas were later found in the Antarctica, India, South America, China, Russia. Evidence for a global supercontinent at the time. Triassic climates were warm, with much less variation from the poles to the equator than exists today. There is no evidence for polar ice caps, and the north and south poles both lay over oceans at the time. During the Triassic, there was apparently a broad climatic shift, at least in terms of the reptile-bearing rock formations from warm and moist to hot and dry. This may have been caused partly a northwards drift of the southern reptile-bearing sites into the tropical climatic belt. The climate change caused a major turnover in the floras. During the earlier part of the Triassic, floras in the southern hemisphere were dominated by the seed from Dicroidium, a shrubby plant with broad leaves. These floras disappeared in the late Triassic, and they were replaced by northern style conifer dominated floras better adapted to dry climatic conditions. The floral turnover was matched by a major faunal turnover, and the dominant herbivores died out, to be replaced in time by the first herbivorous dinosaurs. After the Devonian and the extinction of many groups of jawless fishes, placoderms and acanthorians, two main groups filled the seas. The chondrichthyes, that is sharks and rays, diversified at different points and achieved high diversity at times. The osteichthyes, that is the bony fishes, also radiated several times, and they have become a major element of marine and freshwater life today. Most recent fishes, the salmon, cod, herring, goldfish, seahorse, tuna and so on, are bony fishes that form part of a vast radiation that began over 150 million years ago. Several primitive fish lineages that were important in the Silurian and Devonian, the agnathans and lungfishes as well as the coelacanths, have lived through the last 360 million years since the beginning of the Carboniferous, but at the low diversity. About 60 families of the sharks and their relatives lived during the late Paleozoic and Mesozoic, but many of these are known only from teeth and spines. The basal sharks include the Cladocellacidae, such as the Cladocellaceae from the late Devonian, which was surprisingly modern looking. Recent finds, however, have revealed some quite bizarre, that is the Chondroctesians in the Carboniferous also. Now let us conclude the entire discussion. Actually, the vertebrates are all the animals which contains a backbone. A backbone comes from the notochord, which is a long, slender, cylinder-like object found in vertebrates only. Actually, the life began in the water and then came to the land. Vertebrates are found both in the water as well as in the land. Also, there are some animals which are peculiar, which live on land as well as in the water, what you call as the amphibians. The reptiles and the mammals and other fishes, they are all included in the vertebrates. Actually, they have radiated a lot after coming to the land, and a variety of forms we know from the fossils, and still today there are some evidences that relate that they have came from some other bigger evidences. Like the reptiles, in general morphology it is much like that of the dinosaurs, and also we have the characters common, so we can relate that the present is key to the past. I hope you might have enjoyed the text. Thank you very much.